Hey, what's up you guys? Bloody Jacob here to bring you my weekly review of The Strain on FX. This week we've seen Season 3, Episode 9, which was called Do or Die. And, I want to apologize for the lateness of this review, but, I had to check out the season premiere of The Walking Dead. And this review probably won't be as detailed as usual because that premiere did leave me a little bit frazzled, and thus I didn't really feel up to taking notes. But, I still want to get my thoughts out there. I had to catch the replay due to the Walking Dead episode running a few minutes over. But, still, even though the Walking Dead still kind of stuck in my mind right now, this week's episode of The Strain was, another really good one. I thought I really enjoyed it. We had a lot go on, actually, when it came to, Gus, Feraldo, Angel. Then we had, more of the focus on a dynamic with Eph and Dutch as I tested out, their interfering with the Master's communication, such with the Strigoi, and found out about Quinlan and a few other things as well as a pretty big concentration on Palmer in this episode, which I actually ended up liking quite a bit. Jonathan Hyde, he's always done a very good job in the role, as playing the sort of stuck up, sort of entitled character, but over the past couple seasons, especially this season, we've seen a fair change in Palmer. I think we have been hearing for a while that they were going to try and make him more of a sympathetic villain, and I think this is the episode that really started to do it. Honestly, of course we had him deal with the death of Coco, in the later part of season 2 and such. And he could kind of feel for him there, but I feel like getting more of his sort of backstory and his personal side of things in this episode did contribute maybe even more to that. Because we got a few flashbacks throughout the episode with him and his father and sort of the relationship that they had, as far as like Gree goes, and as well as the connection to his mother and such. That's all pretty well done. Although it's kind of funny when they had Jonathan Hyde dressed up to look a little bit younger, it didn't really quite work. But still, he did a good job in those scenes. And we had some major shit go down on the Feraldo side of things this week. People have been wondering, why we haven't seen her or any of the government efforts, for the past couple of episodes. But we kind of got it sealed here. And we basically see that pretty much all the officers, all the enforcement they have are abandoning them at this point. They've pretty much given up, and most of them are heading out. They have maybe like 5 left on their side out of, I don't know how many they had exactly, and there wasn't really that many to begin with. But this just completely leaves them in a state where they can't really do anything. As Feraldo was saying at the beginning of the episode, she was trying to sort of encourage them and build up support again, that they couldn't take what they're trying to get before, but they could at least hold like smaller sections that they've already gained, and try to regroup and stuff, and wait on more of a government reaction perhaps. But most of them just wanted to get out of there, to actually be assured that they'd be safe, and probably some of them had families and such, to consider as well. So by the time they all left, Feraldo pretty much had nothing to work with. She was already done at that point. But finally she was encouraged to actually leave and trying to get out. And she ends up her and Frank, the main officer she's been working with this whole time, they head out. They actually run into Gus and Angel. Gus doesn't really want to stop. He and Angel are just trying to get out of the city, just leave it all behind and forget it, just get out of everything. Of course, after last week, after the previous episode where Gus finally had to put down his mother, but Angel with his heart, he just wanted to help, even though they were authorities, and they've recently had bad experiences with that. And they do, they're able to clear him out temporarily for a few minutes. But, to get through to, cross the open water, which the Strigoi apparently can't get over, they had to go on foot, with all the cars jammed up in front of them and such. And, of course, the other officers that were with Feraldo are taken out, and it just all breaks down from there. Frank is stunned, and then we see as Feraldo shoots off one of the things that were on him. Of course, another worm goes into her eye, and they're both destroyed at this point. There's no Ephraim around no Fet around to quickly burn it, so they're both done at that point. And you knew it was going to happen. You knew eventually the story had to overwhelm these efforts here, but it was still a shame that Feraldo just ended up completely failing pretty much. Samantha Mathis always did a pretty good job in her role on the show. She wasn't like a favorite for me or anything, but she's been around for a decent amount of time now. So the bigger loss though was Angel. He was actually stung in the leg, and that was actually pretty hard to see. And these losses weren't as hard as what we seen in The Walking Dead tonight, but I still didn't expect Angel to go at this point. I haven't. I'm not really speaking for the comic books or anything, but I didn't really expect his time to come up at that point. And how do I feel about it? I think it was fine. It was fairly well done. I feel like if he was going to go out, he'd probably go out like that. He'd probably go out, making something explode, taking out more of them. It makes sense. But I feel like he could have used a little bit more development before that happened. I feel like we still didn't know him overly well, although we did grow to like his camaraderie with Gus and such. It was upsetting to see Gus lose another person close to him like that so quickly after what has just been happening. But Angel wields up the silver crosses and such before the thing explodes and takes out that group Stigori, as well as Feraldo and Frank before they're further attacked. So yeah, that was actually pretty surprising to see. Gus manages to escape though, and we also had drawing a blank for a second. We also had Eph and Dutch, as they had actually tested their device, and it seems to work pretty well. We see that it actually sort of freezes the Strigoi in place so much to the point where they like slowly step, but then they just like halt altogether practically, and Eph's able just to, or they're able just to shoot them in the head, just as effortlessly as they'd want to, and just like slice their heads in half, at their leisure. So it's good to see them actually make progress and something actually being successful. So that was good, and then they end up presenting this idea, or this knowledge and tale of effectiveness to Setrakian and Fet. And Fet had stopped by earlier, and you could just tell things are just completely awkward with the three of them, especially after Eph and Dutch just had a bit of a shower fling. So you can probably, it's kind of obvious that Fet sort of senses that they've gotten together somehow. It's kind of there's kind of that weird tension in the air. But with that, Fet had tried to get Dutch out of the city. He just asked her to come with him, and he said, "Hey, at least I tried." But this confrontation here is a little bit different. Setrakian, he seems intrigued, or at least willing to hear what Eph has to say here. Despite Eph thinking Setrakian wouldn't want to see his face again, Setrakian's willing to hear what he's found out. If it's good for the fight, right? But Fet, on the other hand, he still holds a lot against Ephraim. Of course, driven by the fact that Eph stole the Lumen to try and get his son back. I always thought Fet could have been a little bit more understanding towards that. For his son. Eph did it for his son. He wouldn't have done it under pretty much any other circumstances. Yes, it was probably a dumb move, but Eph's a desperate man, and in that scenario, and any father probably would be. So I feel like if Fet was in that same position, if it was his kid, he would have done the same thing. But I also feel like part of it is sort of born from the fact that Fet probably does hold a little bit of jealousy towards Eph, maybe for Dutch a little bit. I don't know. But we actually see Fet and Ephraim actually get into a little bit of a fight here, which I didn't fully expect. When the first punch was thrown, I was like, okay, that's something, but they actually get into a little hand-to-hand action. And I love Fet, of course, but Ephraim's definitely my favorite character on the show. So I was actually, Fet gets some pretty hard hits in. He knocks Eph to the floor, and he throws him across the table and such. But Eph, he has some tactics or sort of some maneuvers, as he blocks a couple of Fet's hits actually, and actually lands a couple of good punches on Fet, which I was pretty happy about. He's more than just a scientist. But of course, that's where when Setrakian tells them they have to stop. This is exactly what the master wants them to turn on each other. And then that's when we see Quinlan come back in. He appears to be a little bit scuffed up, but he survived that blast. And I didn't think Quinlan died at the end of last week's episode with the white light, and when the ancients did and such. But still, just to get reassurance in him showing up was relieving. And he just says they can't deal with their bickering in the situation. The ancients are dead. So that was all very good. The Fet and Eph fight especially, it kind of drove up the episode a little bit higher for me. Then we also had again the Palmer and Eichorst stuff. We got more flashbacks. We've seen Palmer first dealing with Eichorst. Excuse me. And at the end of the episode, we got a pretty awesome scene with Palmer actually trying to take some revenge on Eichorst, actually definitely turning on him at this point, just all out. Eichorst had known that Palmer is doing some things behind their backs, but this is actually an ambush. He flips over the sheet or the blanket that was over his lap, and he has this shotgun. Which is actually pretty badass. I'll give it to Palmer here, and he gets a pretty good shot on Eichorst through the chest area, and then that's when his security team comes in, and they actually riddle Eichorst fairly well with bullets, and Eichorst crawls, and he just manages to throw himself down the elevator shaft. Maybe he should have died there, because if not the bullets, I'm not sure if they were silver or not, but if not for that, then maybe the fall would just crush him when he lands somehow. Unless he clung to one of the wires or something. I don't know. Of course he got to set aside some disbelief, but of course Eichorst is tough, and he's been through a hell of a lot. And also, in a way, although it would have been awesome to see Palmer actually kill Eichorst here, I'm glad Eichorst is still alive, not only because he's such an awesome villain, but because I feel like Eichorst should be killed by Setrakian. The Master's done a lot in Setrakian's life, but Eichorst was always the one sort of carrying out the orders, so I've always felt like Eichorst needs to die at the hands of Abraham, and so hopefully that's what we're still going to see. It appears that Eichorst has survived for now. We see him crawling in the previews and such, but we'll see. I think that was it for the episode. I know I'm probably forgetting some things, but overall this is a pretty good one. I'll admit a little overshadowed by what happened on The Walking Dead tonight, but I still nonetheless really enjoyed this one. I'm going to give it about an 8.7, 8.8 out of 10. I thought it was a really good one that had some good shit go down, and of course setting up for probably an even bigger finale next week. I'm really looking forward to it. Just 10 episodes this season, but I think it's been a really good one. And of course I think it's going to have an awesome lead into the final season next year. Hopefully we actually find out who the Master's new vessel is. And so if you guys enjoyed this video, you can follow me on Facebook, Twitter, subscribe, and peace.